in April, I got bored one day and said, you know what would do wonders for my self-esteem? Ranking the top 10 hardest modern RPG bosses that I'm probably the only one who has problems with. And then it somehow became the most viewed video on my entire channel. And I have no clue why the hell it went buck wild. But it did, and I'm forever grateful. So, it's time to give this video the sequel it deserves. Also, yes, secret bosses will also be on this list, such as the Master, Darkstar X, and the Penguin. You know, you get the drift. Also, no mainstream games such as Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario World, Super Mario Sunshine, and you get the idea. So without further delay, let's go! Seeing the Koopalings appear in Color Splash was actually quite a welcome surprise. I like these guys a lot, but man, some of them have absolutely terrible boss fights and the others have insanely good ones. But man, Roy kicked my ass. I was getting genuinely frustrated with them, so that's why he's here on the list. Especially since the vampiric shy guys you encounter constantly in this game decide to suck all your pain away before the fight even starts, and some of the cards. So as Roy says, you gotta buckle up because this ain't gonna be an easy fight. Especially with how much of a tank Roy is, and you're getting splashed with your own damn paint. That's gonna be a rough battle depending on what cards you have before the fight. Now, a lot of people would actually assume that I actually hate this mechanic, and the answer to that is, no I don't. I genuinely think it's a really interesting challenge to add to what would have just been a game of jump and hammer Roy down until he gets drained of his own paint. Not gonna lie, it was a bit of a challenge. It took me about, I think, 3, maybe 4 times to beat Roy. So he's not too difficult to deal with compared with the other bosses on this list, but he is one that could be considered difficult by some, me included. The only reason as to why Gloomtail is higher than Roy is because I actually died to Gloomtail a total of 5 times. 1 more time than Roy. That and also Gloomtail is easily harder than Roy is. Gloomtail is a boss that you encounter in the Shadow Palace that was sealed behind the 1,000-year door. Or some of the lore stuff, I don't exactly know. But yeah, Gloomtail is actually one annoying menace to deal with. Especially with that poison breath, which does some good chip damage. But combined with Gloomtail's constant onslaught, isn't it all going to be easy to keep your HP up? Especially considering you gotta deal with his Mega Breath as well. There is another slight problem here though. You may end up using your healing items early that you kept for a later boss. And you have to backtrack for more. That's one of the biggest reasons he's on here. If you don't strategize well, you have to use up the items you saved up until this point. However, he's this low purely because he's not insanely difficult like the later entries. He's manageable at best, but he's still a pretty decent challenge. Now, I know a lot of people might not agree with me on this one, but this one gave me one hell of a challenge. We never actually see Shadow's true form, but we'll take the form of our four main heroes: Mario, Princess Peach, Bowser, and Luigi. And they have a whopping 100 HP each. That is an insane 400 HP in total, already making this a rather difficult challenge. Not only that, but you literally have to fight yourself using your own fire breath, your own hammers, and all of your other abilities against you. Not only that, but in its Luigi form, it can heal, making this even more difficult to take down and making you do even more work. So yeah, this entity isn't too crazy, but one thing I will say gave me a hard time was the Luigi one. Other than that, it's not too bad, but it's easily harder than Gloomtail, at least for me. Mainly because with Gloomtail, I could time everything and dodge relatively alright. But with this, it felt more like a free-for-all, which actually I don't do too well in. The 1,000-Year Door houses some of the most unique bosses in all of Paper Mario, and arguably in the Mario RPG world. A boss from this game that really got me was Cortez, the Pirate King himself. Cortez has not one, not two, but 3 phases. Now, 3 phases would be considered normal for a final boss, but definitely not a mid-story boss. His first phase is him holding a bunch of swords and looking badass as fuck, may I add. Despite looking like he's going to attack you 17 times, he only attacks you 1 time, thankfully. But even then, his attacks are not all easy to dodge. Once you chip off about 20 HP, phase 2 goes into play. This dude is just a straight up skeletal serpentine at this point, and it looks amazing. This form attacks with a headbutt and can charge before throwing a bone at Mario or his partners. Overall, just attack the head and the pile of bones and make sure to time your dodge as well. Cortez's second phase gave me quite a hard time trying to dodge. But once you chip off 20 more HP, you don't have to worry about phase 2 anymore. No. You gotta worry about phase 3, which is his floating head, aiming swords, and a hook hand at ya. And yes, it still looks cool. The best way to counter this is to use Flurry's Gale Force to blow these things away and start wailing away on Cortez. But if you don't know these tactics, this fight is incredibly challenging at times. However, I still think compared to the other boss fights on this list, he's on the easier end of the spectrum. I don't see a lot of people talking about this one. Sure, Paper Jam is not a very popular game, but I actually had a ball when I played this game earlier in the year, so let's do this. Now, this fight is definitely no pushover. I feel like some would debate that this would be higher on the list, but that's besides the point. For the first phase, you gotta deal with not 1, but 2 Bowsers. Your problems have certainly multiplied here. The worst part about this first phase is they can retreat into their shells and become invincible to damage. Sure, this phase isn't too terrible to deal with, but it gets infinitely worse when you gotta deal with phase 2. Phase 2 is where junk gets real incredibly quickly. The 2 Bowsers merge together to become Shiny Robo Bowser. Now, what's the best way to describe this monstrosity? Very simple. This dude is a nightmare combined with a hellish robot creation. First things first, he can raise his defenses to an insane level with his armor. And even though you can break said armor, he can also replenish it and heal himself by an absurdly stupid amount. Even worse, when he has his helmet on, you try to be big brain and use a trio move, he will just instantly counter it with his own trio move. And he can turn you into sheets of paper and breathe fire at you. However, you're paper, and dodging is mad difficult here. Then he gets absolutely mean as heck and fakes you out at times, which just... ooh, that got me. The absolutely most brutal attack he has is the flying attack, because you not only have to worry about Mario and Luigi on the ground, but you also have to worry about Paper Mario in his airplane form in the air. Boy, oh boy, that's gonna go well. But yeah, you better have good reflexes or else you're gonna be in big trouble here. A lot of people were actually so mad that this boss wasn't on the last list. Yeah, he actually fought for the spot with the Crystal King, but I cut him from the list at the last second. But hey, he's on it now. Huff and Puff is actually a boss that genuinely challenged me for a number of reasons. This dude made me pull out the big brain tactics for the entire battle. The best thing you can do to this guy is just take him out quickly and think about what you're gonna do before you start whamming away on him. This guy has miniature versions of him that can not only gang up on you, but can also be reabsorbed to heal Huff and Puff and undo some of your hard work. However, you can't just go for Huff and Puff. You also have to take out his miniature version so there isn't much HP to regain for him and less damage to dish out towards Mario and co. However, this nasty cloud can also make his body immune to attacks for a few turns with electricity. But there is a pro to this. You can focus on his miniature versions and focus on healing up your HP if needed. So, overall, be sure to alternate your attacks and you should be okay as long as you focus and you have enough healing items to last through this match because, oh boy, it's gonna get brutal. Okay, before we start off in number 4, I promise this is the last Bowser entry, I swear. Also, can we just get an F in the chat for Bowser in this game? This dude had a very, very, very hard time in Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. From having his airship completely wrecked, having amnesia and working alongside Popple, getting shot out of a damn cannon, and worst of all, being possessed by Cackleta's soul, and creating this nightmare fuel. It still haunts my nightmares to this very day, don't worry. I can only think of a few words to describe Balletta's fight. It is not easy. It's quite difficult to maneuver with having to destroy these weird fireball rock thingies and also having to watch Balletta to make sure you time your dodges correctly in order to keep your HP to a slightly good point, because let's be real here, there's no way in heck you're keeping your HP all the way up in this fight. And sometimes just getting pure lucky as well. However, Belletta was just the warm-up. You also have to deal with Cackleta's soul, which you start the fight at 1 HP. I mean, sure, you can heal and all, but geez, that's rough as hell. And this is where things get dicey, especially if you're playing the original game. In the original, you have no idea which arm is Cackleta's fire arm and which is the ice arm. But if you're playing Superstar Saga plus Bowser's minions, then you're totally fine because it ends up showing which one is which. But man, I was a buffoon and I played the original because I wanted the nostalgia. So I struggled a lot with that when I played this. Cackleta's soul is easily one of the most insane final bosses and bosses in general I've ever fought, mainly due to her attacks and how freaking difficult some of them are. Some of them you gotta dodge right or it won't end well, especially that energy ball. For some reason I had the hardest time on the planet trying to deflect that thingy. Overall though, take your time and don't leap before you think, because especially here, it's gonna be chaos if you do. Prince Mush was a fight that I didn't know existed until Erica so graciously told me, "Hey, go back to Glitzville once you're done with the Shadow Queen." And I did. But boy oh boy, I was not expecting this. So why is this lad so hard, you might ask? Well, this dude has a pretty good 96 HP, which is nothing to sneeze at. But he also has 6 attack and 6 defense. Fudge. He also has not 1, not 2, but 3 different battle tactics, which you have to memorize and keep an eye out for. Hey, at least he doesn't play dirty. But holy crap, this guy's attacks are insanely nuts! He could take out any one of Mario's partners or Mario himself with his kick attacks, especially since they're charged. And boy, if you don't guard, those partners or even Mario himself are going to be dropping quickly. When I first played against Mush, I was foolishly unprepared and I got real humbled really quickly. Now, usually I include strategies here like, hey, here's the best way to deal with this boss. The only strategy that I found to work was you have 3 different plans. Have life shrooms, and maybe get your hands on the partner switch badge so you can switch partners without using Mario's turn or the partner's turn. Overall though, for a chimp who's been MIA for quite some time, he sure does still pack a punch. The worst part is, he's not even number 1. You know what happens when you get a collaboration between Nintendo and Square Enix? You get Super Mario RPG. What do you get with Super Mario RPG? Hard as heck bosses. You get a taste of what people over on Square Enix's side have to deal with on the regular. Then you have Kulex, which is just a freaking nightmare. Not only can he attack 5 times in one freaking turn, but he also has these 4 crystals. The Fire Crystal, the Water Crystal, the Earth Crystal, and the Wind Crystal. These crystals were the bane of my existence in this fight, especially that dang Wind Crystal that can use a move called Petal Blast, which will turn all of or some of your party members into toadstools, which disables their moves. And sure, it heals them, but you can't block any part of this onslaught. You have to tank every single bit of it. And you're going up against attacks such as Boulder, Solidify, Hot Shot, Meteor, and many others. Now you would think Coolix doesn't have that much HP, but you're wrong there too. Coolix has 4,096 HP. However, altogether, the 4 crystals have a HP totals of 2,500, 3,200, 1,800, and 800. Combined with Coolix, this makes the grand total over 12,000 HP. Okay, that's actually a lot more than I thought when I first sat down to do the math. But yeah, holy smokes, that is a lot of HP. Overall, though, this dude packs a pretty huge punch and can easily sweep your team if you're not careful. But just hold on tight, hang in there, and with guts, you might be able to get him. Okay. Before you all murder me in the comments with,
Bonetail isn't harder! Coolix is over 12,000 HP! What's wrong with you?
and to that, I offer this up. To get to Coolix, you go through a door. That's it. To get to Bonetail, you have to go through the Pit of 100 Trials and sacrifice your items to get to this gal. And the worst part, you cannot turn back to get more items. Once you get to Bonetail, you gotta deal with Bonetail with the items you have. Anyway, this motherfucker has been in the running for hardest bosses in the Mario franchise since 2004. And boy oh boy, I see why the hell this girl is compared to the Shadow Queen so often. On the one hand, it is very difficult to regroup and get more healing items before each fight. Both of them deal a shit ton of damage, but what sets them apart is that unlike the Shadow Queen, you have to go through the entire 100 trials again before getting another chance to fight Bonetail, which doesn't leave you with a lot of time to memorize her attack patterns. Now, onto the Remnant herself. Bonetail has 200 HP, which is a lot of damage to deal. But this dragon is packed with one powerful as hell moveset, with her attack being 8, a defense of 2, and that's not all. She can also heal up to 20 HP when her health gets low. She has an unguardable chomp attack. Hell, not even a super guard can block that. The only way to dodge that attack is to literally use Vivian so you can dodge with Veil. She also has a stomp attack, but she can also confuse you, poison you, which will take quite some time to wear off, but she can also freeze you. But another thing you have to keep in mind, these attacks do 8 damage each, meaning if you're not careful, you're gonna get taken out incredibly quickly by Bonetail. The only strategy that I could even possibly think of while fighting Bonetail was having Mario's partners in front and switching them out when they got low. You want to have Goombella tattle immediately. Then when Bonetail charges up her Mega Breath attack, you need Vivian to swap in and use Veil so you can dodge. Flurry was also a good choice because she is a bit more of a tank compared to some other party members, but what ended up saving me was my badges, because boy oh boy, I do not ever want to fight Bonetail again. But I had to do it, I had to get it done, and by the way, it took me about 2 weeks to beat Bonetail. I do think that for Volume 2, Bonetail is at the appropriate spot. I know that there's an insane debate of who is more difficult. Bonetail, the Shadow Queen, Coolix, other bosses that didn't make this list, but in my opinion, they're all difficult in different ways, and I see why people wanted Bonetail in the original list. She is no pushover. Hello, amazing people! I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I had a good time making it, and honestly, this is one of those videos that I would totally make again. I had a good time making this video. If you liked this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and check out my other videos too, because I make many other videos just like this one. Also, huge thank you to my thumbnail artist, Lufinas, for the amazing thumbnail. I honestly loved how it turned out. Anyway, can't wait to see you all in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye-bye!